Morning, everyone. Hope everyone's all right. Who's on today? Remember, guys, if you want to ask me any questions, make sure you make them stand out in the feed, just so I can see them. But otherwise, just to chat amongst yourselves. As we get started, I'll read a few comments from some of my recent videos that I thought were noteworthy to mention here. Firstly, from the video, "Do You Need People?" We had Rachel Wisdom say he quoted Peter Carroll, "In the absence of adversity, the mind creates its own." And he says, maybe this is related to what you describe, lacking stimuli. The brain tries to create its own. It seeks out a perception, makes you look for people and interaction to maintain, I guess, some sort of psychological homeostasis. It's an interesting point. I thought that was pretty good. Yeah, what's familiar? Human beings are pattern machines. It's how we survive. We notice which berries are poisonous and red, and we die from eating, and we remember that, and so we don't do it again. Greetings, everyone. The weather here today, sunny, cool, spring-like weather. Quasimandias, how are you, man? Going savage you are. Me? Okay, next comment from a recent video. Do you need people? Nova Europe said, as Nietzsche sort of put it, other people are either a means to your life's goals, or B, an obstacle, or C, a resting place along the way. Well, sure. Yeah, either one of those. I think it's a bit simplistic, but let's see it again. Yeah, means to your life goals doesn't necessarily need to be nefarious, like friends or lovers or anything. They could sort of be a cooperative means to mutual goals. Obstacle, sure. Yeah, the world is full of them. In fact, there's a lot. I'd say most of the world is full of them, and some of them unwittingly. They're trying to survive, and they don't care whose neck they step on because they're worrying about their paycheck and their family and a roof over their head. A resting place along the way? Well, hopefully not. You'd hope people just aren't your resting place. They can be valuable lessons, a temporary place from which you learn something. You know, you wouldn't have gotten to where you're getting to without them along the way. Sometimes that's the case, but hopefully you don't want to use people as a resting place for yourself, like some guys might pump and dump women, things like that. Or, you know, you use people. Basically, would you like to be a resting place for somebody? I mean, sometimes if it's mutual, I suppose, but generally, no, I wouldn't advise it. Wasting time. Chris says, good color palette today. Okay. Wasn't sure about this one, but this one I think has a touch more. Oh no, I could be wrong. Anyway, I'll just leave it at that. General Veers, thank you very much for the super chat. He asks, Human, I have an idea to get women to respect men again. We'll go into Rome and fix up that Colosseum and bust out the gladiators. This will get their attention. Yeah, sure. Glad to know you. said, I told my girlfriend I didn't need her to make me happy just the other day. Sheesh. You told her. Must have been a bit of an argument. Nostalgia Chubby asks, can you go into specific details about the lockdown down under? We're going to, at the moment, it eased off a tiny bit, not very much, about a week or so ago, where we can go to see one significant other, like a family member. You know, you can nominate yourself as a carer. And so I've nominated my mother as the person that I'm in contact with, and I can see her if I'm ever pulled over. But what's today? Friday here. On Sunday, they're most likely, it looks like they're going to ease the restrictions where more than 5 to 10 people can gather, and that's as far as I know. It's always changing. You know what? With all this, you get tired of it. You get to a point where you really don't care anymore. I don't watch much television, guys. My TV, I used to watch movies when I'm eating, and that's about it. The only time I really watch TV is if I go and visit my mother, or someone has it on, or people I know, you guys tell me about what's going on in the world. Otherwise, I don't really think I'm missing out on too much. When I need to know, I'll know. Okay, I'll keep going on with some more comments from previous videos. The next one is from the video, what do you miss about dating in lockdown? Mike J says, man chooses woman first, then designs life around her. Woman designs her life first, then cookie cutter picks men who fit in that design. I don't know if she designs her life. She designs what she wants. But I agree in the first part. A man chooses a woman first, then he goes forward with what he has. I think it's to do with the man's reality-based tactile sense of the world, where, you know, you've got a cup and now I can drink it, now I can wash it, now I can do something with it, instead of imagining things. Like, if guys keep imagining what they're going to do later, they never get to do anything. It's happening more and more today. We're not living face-to-face with each other. We're living more virtually behind screens, especially during lockdown. You could argue we're living more like females, conceptually. But yeah, men definitely. This is a thing I found whenever I understood it, but I never felt it personally when I'd hear particularly women say that they want children or they want something that's 10 steps ahead. I could only deal with what's in front of me. So when a woman would ask or say, I want to get married, or do you love me? I kind of feel like, well, in my mind, I'm saying not yet. Like, I'm very aware of where I am right now in that present moment. And, you know, I like her, things are going well. Or if I do love her, I'll let her know. But especially, say, with kids, I could never want something before the necessary steps that would precede it. Whereas a woman could have her eye on the prize, which is 10 steps ahead, and everything else would be ignored, and she'd be aiming for that. How she conducts herself, what she does, being aware of what's in front of her, enjoying it. So, you know, people can argue that, well, you know, you're not planning for the future, you're not doing this, but I just see a lot of people missing the present, and not judging the present. So they're kind of, if they want kids and family, they feel like, well, this is the woman I've chosen, and I'll make the best of it. And, you know, we both want children and family. Yeah, we irritate each other. We get on each other's nerves. We won't look too closely at each other. That's the other thing I've heard. Don't look too closely at your partner because you're bound to find something wrong. Well, look very closely at the beginning. I mean, I see too many people not looking at all and then producing other human beings with that person or wasting their lives. Let me read some of the comments. Bence says, how do you view humanity in 50, 150,000 years later? What's our future in your opinion? I have no idea, man. Seriously, I'm not trying to sort of dismiss the question, but I don't know. Look at how much things have changed and how quickly recently. Quasimandiah says, yeah, I hear your message, but I'm feeling the super intense need to relate from those who can. Honestly, my social life is better than ever. Those who can do, and no one farts around anymore. Yeah, surround yourself with the kind of people you might have complained that you didn't have in your life that was missing. Cultivate good people, cultivate good ideas. You want to get fit. You want to change things. But yeah, especially with people today, what these times should show is what's important and how time is important as well, and the people you have within that time, the people you talk to, especially things like really how responsible you have to be and how everything comes down to your moral code, your ethical responsibility, and who you choose. And you're not going to be allowed to get away with as many things, or at least that's the sense about what's going on. So you can't just piss fart around. JW asks, have you noticed how willing women are to throw a great day in the toilet over something trivial, i.e. you park too far away? You walk too slow. That's brilliant. I'm laughing because it's bringing mini flashbacks and mini flashbacks from guys I've known and heard stories about. Yeah, women are running on a clock much more than men are. I think even subconsciously. I think that's a lot of where that comes from. That impatience, the nagging. Even if they're not conscious about it, there's an intrinsic awareness of hurry up, time's being wasted. Biology's kind of pushing them, whether they know it or not. Feral male, do women really plan that far ahead? In my honest opinion, they just state a desire and then it's up to the guys to make that happen. Yeah, sure, but they're still being pushed by biology. Look, sometimes you can argue in the moment, the speed at which women kind of react with their impulses and their impatience and their inability to defer gratification and start arguments over nothing, usually sort of that's related to a part of their biology, unless it's specific to their character. But either way, we should keep in mind that we don't need to, yes, we need to understand male and female nature, but it basically comes down to basic human decency. You talk to any man, woman, they will agree on certain moral codes and ways of treating each other. I want someone to understand me. I like fairness, blah, 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 all those things. Base things around that. There are certain things, that's biology really kind of comes to the fore. Like you'll tend to be stronger and faster. At this point, I don't know what women are good at, but you know what I mean? There's biology that comes into things. But base it on fair, cooperative, decent, civil human behavior I think if you calibrate yourself to that, like the golden rule, you can't go far wrong. And as was mentioned in these times, especially, I think it's sort of that's the easiest calibrating factor. I think. Is my audio coming in okay, guys? Let me know. I'm using a different mic to last time. Someone told me it didn't sound as good. It was a little bit hollow, although I thought it sounded fine. Okay, I think this is kind of related to the recent video I made about what do you miss about dating in lockdown. Feral Male says, most relationships, I believe, are pointless. I don't think that's true. Everything you do with things or people, everything's a relationship in your life. He continues, there is far more upside to being single. Every upside in a relationship can get when single with far less stress and work. Sure. If we're talking primarily about romantic relationships today, it's very challenging. It's really hard. The way generally women's church and them, the way they act towards each other hasn't really changed that much. They pretend to be on each. Women tend to have a solidarity more so, I think, because they've openly separated themselves from men and saying, generally we don't need men, that we can be independent and so on and so forth, which I kind of get from first wave feminism. I can understand that impulse. I want freedom. There's a lot of guys in the manosphere. There's that impulse of freedom. And, they take the red pill or whatever, and they get a taste of that sovereignty, feeling alive. I'm free. I can make my own decisions. I can be a conscious contributor to my life, the world around me. I can do things now. I'm not shackled. I can be an adult about things, so on and so forth. So I can understand that impulse from first wave feminists that sort of really drill into women. You can do something too, but everything that's come after it is become a show. And yes, if especially if there's a lot of things that you want to do, and especially, look, I think at base, because I've had very good relationships, and I really didn't feel that they hamstrung me, that they were an anchor to my life. They just they gave my life a positive ambience, like a really I felt they just added to my life in a nice way, in an extra way. But if you're practically and even philosophically lazy in your life and you're demanding a lot from the female, as I mentioned in my last video, I think today especially, we demand perfection from the other because we demand it less so in ourselves, and so we foist it on other people, which is really unfair. Michael, oh, that was a big jump. Michael says, told a friend, female, that I want to be acquaintance instead of friends. That I want to be acquaintances instead of friends. I wished her well in her future. She pushed blame on me and took no responsibility for her faults in this. Is this common? You told a friend, a female, that you wanted to be acquaintances instead of friends. Oh, so you didn't want to be friends with her at all? Okay, so you just wanted her to be someone you know. Yep. Look, I think, again, I'm generalizing. Like, don't take a lot of this stuff as like concrete binary rules for life. But I think women get annoyed men tend to sort of get used to small forms of rejection because we have to ask and do things, and we experience little failures and speed bumps, but that's just part of life, because if we don't go out there and try and do things and tinker and ask women out and talk and find our way, nothing happens. We sit still and we just atrophy. We just waste away, rust, and die. Whereas women's passivity can get them things. They can sit there and display themselves, and men will come to them. You know, it's like honey to bees to honey, or bees to flowers. Eugene, hey human, what do you dream about? Do you find dreams useful in any way? I dream less and less as I've gotten older. Hang on, am I in focus? I dream less and less as I've gotten older, but I don't pay much attention to the dreams because a lot of times they're nonsensical. Yeah, you might, if you picture a certain person from your past, maybe you might say, yeah, they were on your mind, or you try to. I don't really believe in dreams insofar as if you think of something or somebody, that means it's going to happen, or it means something in terms of materializing something in your life now. If you look back on it, it was probably you talked about them, or you had a flash in memory of them the day before, or during the day before you went to sleep. I think dreams are a way of your creative mind exercising thoughts running through your brain. They can mean something insofar as you might want to sort of gauge them, but I don't think they're leading you in any way. A lot of people that are into that sort of stuff, if you're meaning that. Swavayev, sorry, I can't pronounce your name. Do you know another language other than English? Yes, I do. I don't want to give too much away about my private life, but I know one other language very, very badly. I can barely speak it. So it's like I know one language and a half. It's based on my heritage and upbringing, which I spoke very little of. General Veers, women drive ahead at 1,000 miles an hour with their desires because their mistakes are covered by society. Yes, and previously men as well, more so than today. Again, I've pondered that perhaps this is a teething part of society for women now to become more conscious contributors to society, but then it has a detrimental effect, or it is at the moment, between relations. Because I don't think we've ever been directly competing with women as much as we are now in such a big connected world. All right, not now at this moment in 2020 because of what's going on, but generally it's one big connected world of independent men, women, and children. What's worrying is the proximal lack of community and friends and lovers and trust, those personal things from which you sort of you live for. You know, whatever you might kind of do out there, you tinker with a job, you tinker with whatever it is, goals in life. Ultimately, there's this base of family, love, trust, partners, friends, things like that. That's kind of gone, and so I can understand the motivation of guys are like, "Well, what's the point? You know, I want the world to burn. I'm nihilistic, so on and so forth." So, without a reason to do all these things and progress, that's what I'm worried about. All this machine wants is everyone atomized as individuals to produce money and tax those individuals, so that more money can be lubricated through the system, and more people at the top can make money. But look, it also might be a way of culling an overpopulated world too. when you look at the positive effects for people at the top, and in terms of easing the pressure on the planet, it makes sense, but it doesn't look very promising. I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, the top of my head's cut off. Okay, I can get lower. Why do you need to see the top of my head? A vaporware. Human, do you think any person who is self-reliant can ever truly have a relationship, man or woman? That's a very good question. I've always pondered that from time to time, especially as I've gotten older. I've always been a self-reliant person. What do they say? They say either you've been raised for self-reliance or you've been raised for dependence. And those two personalities, the older they get, they're really telling in terms of how open they are to cooperation and having relationships. I've been raised on self-reliance from a very early age. Like I said, I was an only child until the age of 9 and 10. At that age, I was already independent. And at that age, I was told to grow up even faster because my brother and sister came into the world. I helped raise them. I was I was the older brother. They looked up to me. So I was always the one calibrated towards responsibility and self-reliance. And I suppose I've had a problem with people who aren't, even mentally, very childish people. You could argue that's a reason why I couldn't tolerate sort of childish women or children that aren't behaved and screaming. Not so much because of the child, because of the parents who are raising them. Because I see well-behaved children, it's a direct result of parents who can raise them to be well-behaved. It's not a surprise when you see families and all their kids have similar traits in terms of how they interact with people around them. You'll get a family where generally all the kids are well-behaved. They're respectful. You might get an aberrant one kid, but I think that's biological hardwiring. They're a bit different in that way. But generally you'll see the kids have one kind of general baseline, and that's due to how the parents raise them. So it all comes down to parenting, I think. JW, recently had multiple family friends give my books on Amazon 4-star reviews rather than 5, and it made me wonder if products have become more important than people nowadays in the West. Oh yeah, products have become more important than people for a while. Edson, what are your views on monk mode? I have nothing against monk mode. If you're truly happy and you can sleep at night and you really enjoy your life and it's much better, I have nothing against monk mode. I see too many guys saying that they're this or they're that, but they're angry at the world they supposedly left behind for a better life. But no, I don't see anything wrong with monk mode. Sometimes it might not be a permanent lifestyle. Sometimes it might be a way station for you to figure out what you want to do. Sometimes you might think it's a way station, but then you discover it is the place you're supposed to be permanently. I don't know. Silver Surf Studio says, I disagree. Why does it take a woman 3 hours to run errands that would take me 45 minutes? Efficiency. In the same way when I'd say women, when they talk, they meander around a conversation far more than men. We tend to want to get to the point. You'll hear a woman talking about, you'll ask her, where did you get your shoes? And then she'll say, well, my friend Jenny that I met from high school, the one with the red hair. Well, by the way, I saw her the other day and blah, blah, and you'll be like, can you just tell me the point of can you answer the question I asked? Efficiency is a big thing with men, not so much with women. The kind of the effect, the ambience of a conversation, the feeling that the story and the place of words in the conversation those things women enjoy. We do too as a consequence, but we really enjoy the potent effect of specific words and their meaning and where they're placed. So for instance, I've always had the feeling or the sense that men enjoy poetry more for its specific meaning, and it's kind of its tactile relatability to life, whereas women enjoy poetry and, in a sense, music because of the way it makes them feel unconsciously. It doesn't really need to have any deep meaning for them. It just needs to have this kind of just very sort of thin veneer of feeling over it, but not deep. Depth, meaning, with that I think comes a lot of responsibility. And women, women like to be on holiday. Glad to know you. I believe women are more opportunistic than men. I think the male is more apt to think long term. I think the second half of your sentence is the most true. I think the man is a much more a long-term thinker. Again, he has to be. At the end of the day, he's on his own. He can't lean on women. He either leads his own life, or he leads his own life and he leads his family's life and his community's life and whatever. But a man is a leader, so you either lead your own life, or if you're the marrying kind or the person who wants a family, you lead that too. But there's a sense of one's own leadership that fulfills a man. I think a lot of guys aren't leading themselves today, and I think that's a lot of where their, non-direction and malaise comes from. Let's get back to some of the questions. I think we're up to number 4. In terms of my video, what do you miss about dating in lockdown? I am Pinocchio says, I miss one thing being minked out for 10 years, attraction itself. I am late 40s, so the attraction to women my age just isn't there like when it was when I was 20. I miss that attraction. Yeah, I can relate to that. Which is ironic. Women leave men all the time because they lose attraction, which is exactly how I feel in my 40s towards them. I'm not angry or hate them, I just basically don't feel it anymore. I'm starting to think like the feminists say men do. I look at them like objects now, just not desirable ones like a cordless drill. Yeah. This is the thing. You get older, the world comes much more into focus and importance, and you actually feel it. And women, they'll be attractive. You'll like the look of them. You'll like their company, but they're not a drug like they used to be. They're something you can take or leave as you get older. The feeling really wanes, and it's not just you saying it for your own mental health so you can get on with life. Like, no, I don't need women. Like sometimes I joke, I used to ride skateboards too. I have nothing against skateboards. They're fun, but it's a young man's game. Again, guys, like you are going to feel so much better in your life if you don't blame women. Understand them, but understand yourself most importantly. Like, understand yourself and most of life falls into place. You can tell what's not for you, what is for you. Or say, for instance, women, if they are for you, you'll know your boundaries. And within those are the only ways you'll actually ever permit a woman to come into your life. Okay, let's keep going with the questions. Audio's good. Good. Thanks, real names not given. Thailand, Silver Surfer. Yep, all you guys. Thanks. Condenser mic. From Lad to Know You. No, the last couple have been a condenser mic. This one's actually a dynamic. which I thought might be a reason to go back to, because my condenser one of before, one person mentioned the sound was a little bit echoey. And so my condenser, by dint of working better the closer I am, will probably get rid of that. And also, this is a microphone. It's probably the most expensive microphone I have, but it's not my favorite because it's a bit phallic. It's a Rode Procaster, which is a really good high-grade broadcast microphone. Does that make me paranoid? No. Quasi-Mandias. Look, women do not plan that far ahead. I agree. But they've got good instincts, that their impulses. I think what the good thing about women is, what their biology wants of them, they jump, and their kind of impulses go forward and attach, and they allow biology to go through them. So in that way, they're not conscious. They're not like a person twiddling their mustache in a Machiavellian sense and manipulating things. There are some women who are fairly shrewd and they know what they're doing. Sorry, he continues. Women do not plan that far ahead, but they recognize value and want to harvest it. To be a loving male, you want to know how to deliver value to her and still gain it personally. Siva style. Yeah. Basically, again, if you can sort of make sure you're operating from your perspective and valuing yourself, you'll go forward in life a lot better, and then you'll deal with jobs better, bosses, women, relationships you choose to have. Again, you choose. I think a lot of men are becoming more and more passive as time goes on. You know, you hear it's very common for guys to say, well, I don't want to get into a relationship because once I start getting feelings for it, that's it. It's over. I'm done. It's like, is that how passive you are? Or is that how little you think of yourself? Is that how absent you are in the context of a relationship? That's what's worrying to me. So if you value yourself, you value things, and you know how, you know, what you protect in your life, you know, you protect your low-level Maslow needs, and they're very hard and fast rules. You know how much rope you give someone. You know how much you'll trust someone to a certain degree before they earn that trust, and then you'll give them a bit more, and over time they prove, you know, in a very real sense, how much you'll trust them. Most guys cave into the pressure, like sort of the marketing world, you know, buy now, you know, the offer's going to disappear in one day. The offer's only around for a short time. People fall into that, especially guys, when they see a beautiful woman. It's like, buy now because the offer's only there temporarily. Whereas if your values are more sort of long-term thinking, more mature, let those short-term thinkers, those kind of women, those kind of products, let them go off to the next person. Let them expire. If they're here one day and gone the next, why would you want to commit to them? Okay. The feed has jumped a fair bit. Let me steam through these. I'm going to quickly take a look at what I think look like questions that have been highlighted. Chris, new sub. Thanks for coming on board. He says, my friend is now MGTOW but hasn't had a relationship in years, and he's scared to approach women. Is this common or jumping on? Yeah, as I just mentioned previously about the fear factor of you don't kind of know yourself. You don't sort of know how you probably have an indication that you fold like a deck of cards when it comes to being pushed, especially by women. And so I can understand why a lot of guys avoid women. I suppose if you know that about yourself. it's rational to avoid women. But wouldn't it be better to sort of cultivate an attitude you'd be proud of? You know, what kind of father would you want to be to your kid? What kind of friend would you want to be to someone you cared about? You know, be that person to you. Nostalgia Chubby, how did you sense a shit show if you're live? Ah, see, I just said the word. Here we go. I've got a bleep button on my mixer. G Geared, what do you think about the nice guys finish last phenomenon? They do, but not just in terms of women. As I said, if you're passive, life goes on. Life will leave you behind. You'll be a neutrality. You'll disappear. Not only will you be invisible to women, you'll be invisible to life as well. So better to make the most of your own life. You don't want to have anything to do with women, fine. But sort of make your life matter. That's the bottom line. Make your life matter with or without women. But it doesn't mean, see, this is the extent to which it's gone. It shows how much men are still at the bosom of women, and they might have actual mummy issues. It might have been an effect from childhood or how they're raised. And then you compound that with societies that if they kind of discover, you know, F women, they say the same thing to life itself. So then it suggests like they have no concept of wanting to live if a woman's not there to pull the strings and make life worth living. So in a sense, if a woman's not giving color to my life, then my life is black and white and I'm just waiting for the grave. That should actually come to the fore what you need to do and how little responsibility, how you know, how much color you need to give to your own life. It should show how much you overvalue a woman and how little you value yourself. Captain Pizzazz, there is less trouble with less people in your life. Yes and no. Less trouble with awful people if you start sort of having good values and standards. You start living up to your values and morals. A lot of guys talk a good talk online, but when it comes to real life, they just fall into old patterns. I think the trick is to start sort of being what you know is right online, be that person more so in real life. CT says, Human, I've had insightful conversations with my girlfriends about solipsism, hypergamy, and alpha seed beta need. Do you subscribe to this idea that discussing red pill ideas with women is unproductive? No. I suppose it's like I find, whether you want to call them red pill or philosophical ideas, I find these conversations really rewarding and enriching, and they're the best conversations for me to have. I remember them, I enjoy them, I feel closer to the person because I can actually know who they are through their values. And I think they're essential to be able to talk about these things with the girl you're with if you choose to. Otherwise, what the hell are you going to talk about? This has been my problem. I haven't met many women who can actually talk. They don't have to talk philosophically, but they have to be interested in something. Most people are vacuums. So I think it's constructive, but not in a sense to change anyone, just to kind of see if the person's open enough to reveal who they are, because these conversations are open conversations. That's what I like about them. They're, pardon the pun, human conversations. I kind of, you know, chit-chat's great, as I said in a previous video, as like, you know, an initial gatekeeper to get a person to lower their defenses, to sort of gauge, you know, this person's okay to talk to. But I couldn't imagine dull, idle chit-chat, like office cooler chit-chat with someone you're married to or the mother of your kids, living a whole life with someone that you need to escape to the shed or with your friends, or you need to stay at work away from her just to be able to feel like you breathe a little bit more in life. In that sense, you'd rather be on your own, but really, it's not you rather be on your own. You're not picking good people in your life. Be on your own until you find them. You may never find them. You may never find your unicorn. But if you've got realistic, good, natural baseline values for knowing yourself and the kind of people that will relate well with you, that's a good baseline to me. Feral male, the person has become politicized and consumerized. Yes. Nelophy, I am a woman. CT, I've had very great experiences testing for genuine desire and attraction. It has opened my eyes and made me realize how true your concept of the tank going empty is. At some point you get tired. Yes, and that's the thing I think we should do more of. Not that I want to give you advice or tell you what to do, is not testing for genuine desire and attraction, but being interested enough that your conversations matter. If you're curious about something, ask the person. Not that you're interrogating them as though you're going to use them, but interrogating in terms of, I want to know. I find you interesting. I find this topic interesting. What do you think about it? And if the person responds in like kind or in a way that you find appealing, then that can bring two people closer. That can bring friends or lovers closer in such that, like, oh, finally a person I can talk to. Oh, I feel a bond with this person. I think those things are great. Don't over-romanticize the kind of the lone wolf aspect of the manosphere. It's attractive to men, and at times it's absolutely necessary, because men do function well in that lone wolf, space, only because you can for once calibrate your world without the interference of idiots around you. But as a long-term strategy, it gets harder, especially as you get older. I still contend, overall, we're a social species. That's why we've gotten this far. Our greatest strength is that we can cooperate. That's why we're top of the food chain. Not because we're lone wolves. But look, I'll agree. The way the world is today, it makes it very, very challenging to be social. It's much more rational to be a lone wolf. But again, then that would behoove you to be interested enough in your own philosophical way forward. Let's see if there's another question. Related to my last video, what do you miss about dating in lockdown? Sebastian says, I miss sitting in a cafe, observing the surroundings, soaking up and briefly tasting nearby feminine energy. Occasionally, I would eavesdrop into conversations women would have with partners, friends, and family. Instantly, I would be reminded why I don't actively engage with them anymore. Everything has a price, and sometimes the price is too high. Yeah. I think I made one or two videos, one especially. I think it was the old video called Workhorse, where me and my friend on a day off, we weren't working full time, and just the cafe was full of, I'd say, 90+% females. Their husbands were obviously at work. They had prams. They were chit-chatting and gossiping, and we were about the only men there. And just not just eavesdropping, but observing other people. You get a sense of like what most people are like and what is not for you. CT, I've been thinking about your term gynocentric alcoholism all day. It describes the obsession with a specific corner of YouTube. Stay balanced, men. I don't know if I said gynocentric alcoholism ever. Maybe you're talking about somebody else. The Dead Man Switch asks, Human, do you think depressed people should be in a relationship or have kids? No. I have severe depression and I feel like I'd fail everyone if I was ever even accepted in the first place. Look, I say no only because I'm thinking of the other person, children that you potentially probably will have. I would say get yourself right and then your life will be healthier. You'll have a better in tandem relationship with someone else. I mean, just think about it. If you were solid and the amount of heavy lifting you have to do with someone who's got mental issues, it's not a good thing. Get yourself right, surround yourself with friends. Because a relationship is a sort of a more responsible, deeper way to be. There's a lot of levity in it, and there's a lot of sort of relaxing good things about it too. But if at the core, in your own head, hiding away is like a tight mess, a ball of wool, you really need to sort that out. Okay, let's get through these questions. Thunder Rodriguez, any tips for handling depression, anxiety of being in a holding pattern for some goals due to quarantine restrictions? Yeah, I think that's it's common for many people. So don't think you're the only one. He continues, getting my motorcycle license this weekend to scratch that itch, but I want more. That's a great first step. That might actually it's often things like that. Like getting a motorcycle license, finally doing something you want to do, finally traveling or whatever you want to do, writing that book. That often is the thing that steamrolls everything else. All other doors open. So often it's one really sensible breakthrough, one really sensible sort of jumping off point that will open up everything else. Michael Brown, what is your take on how men and women differ from coming up with solutions? Why does an overweight man go to the gym to lose the excess weight while women just join a body positivity movement? Because men want women much more. What did Chappelle say? A woman's test in life is material. A man's test in life is a woman. And again, if a man doesn't do what he needs to do, like a man's more practical, a woman isn't, because her practicality is generally taken care of or given concessions. She can always lean on a man. A man will always have sympathy even for an overweight woman, a homeless woman, whatever, whereas a woman doesn't have that sympathy. It's just the way it is. It's just the way the hierarchy in biology is structured. JW, how did you spend your time before the lockdown? I spent it doing much of what I do now, except for my social life is a bit more restricted. So I could see my family and friends a little bit more. I'm not a big gregarious person. But the lockdown hasn't affected me as it has most people, from what I see. Jose, thank you very much for the super chat. He says, your content, particularly the latest, has really helped me move past the rage and frustration of relationships. Hearing your conversations, both internal and external, give me peace. Cheers from Mexico. Thanks, Jose. Well, I hope it helps. I think the main thing I'm trying to do, especially recently, is just have a regular conversation with you guys. Not try and talk from a finely executed essay. that I'm handing in at the end of the semester, like an essay of perfection, which may be good and I enjoy them and I do them from time to time. But just talking and having a conversation and because guys kind of don't hear nor talk with each other or relate in this way very often today. So I think that's important to just kind of talk about what's on, what I might be thinking about, what I think is an important issue or a perspective, especially might help you navigate things. But ultimately, it's interesting to me, and I'm thinking in terms of sort of relatability to you guys as well. What can we what's the word? What's relatable? Because I think sometimes we can get overly. For me, the best thinking in philosophy is when it's basic and practical. For me, it's the same reason why Hemingway was so popular as a writer. He was a very simple writer, but a very, very profound writer that tried to get to the meat, tried to get the sort of the bone. So I think in terms of ideas, we don't need to get too elegant. We just need to get very, very we need to get basic and meaningful about things. We can evade a lot of stuff, especially as a guy, as men, because we like complexity. We like chess games. We're responsible for a lot of things in life, so we can avoid ourselves. So we can focus on everything else. We can focus on politics, on women, on the globe, which is all well and good. But we forget about the basics. So I think a basic conversation between us is really essential, as well as specific ideas within. Ted asks, you mentioned we are living now like women, and I agree. Can you expand? I think in terms of sort of the emotional anxiety, not feeling like we have much control in our lives. A lot of it, I think, stems from, single mothers, lack of mentoring, the paths where boys became men and got instructed by men. There's a lot of those factors that have contributed to this. In a world raised by women, it doesn't surprise me that men are trying to run with that script and it's not working. I don't know if I answered that question. JW, do you fear damnation? No. Those back pages. Amen. As a 49-year-old, I agree 100%. Yeah. Join the club. I'm 49 too. Human, how do you overcome female validation? What steps can you take to stop searching for female validation? If these ideas and conversations with men mean something to you and they finally feel like you connect with something that you never did before, take them more seriously as just entertainment or a game show. Look at them as ethics and values. Try and implement them in your life. If you don't, the natural validation that a man feels through, wanting to be with a woman, it's all biology. It's hard for you to get rid of it. So the more you can try and take hold of it in your prefrontal, the better. Again, either you take this stuff seriously because you take yourself seriously and you care about yourself, or you don't, and you'll show it in your actions and your lack of wanting to care. Like, I don't, all this philosophical mumbo jumbo and this highfalutin reading. I just like to go out there and have fun, man. Well, okay, keep having fun. But then the thing that's going to be pulling the strings is biology. And biology is more on the side of women than it is men when you look at it. Stephen says, yeah, hit the like button, everyone. Hit the like button. Subscribe. Help me out. Yeah, smash the like button. Okay, any more questions? All right. The surname with no name, human. I think men tell stories in conversations to add context. Context makes the message. Yes, yes, yes. I'm a big advocate for story and narrative. But I realize I'm biased because I like reading and writing. At the heart of it, I think I'm, the things like my illustrations, my writing, my photography, my videos, at heart, I think I'm a storyteller. That's what I'm interested in. That's what I always gravitate towards. And I think this is probably from where my passion for these ideas come from. So when you're in front of people, when the story doesn't make sense and the narrative's very manipulative, and you can tell a person's kind of making the story unrealistic just to serve their own needs, they're being very selfish. They're not respecting the reader, which is me, or society, or other people. It's like, hang on a minute. No, this story isn't good. You're strong arming this. You're tearing this book in half for your own selfish needs. No, pull it back. Yeah, stories add context, and context add meaning. I agree. Eugene, there are no unicorns, but there are women that are good and virtuous. If you were to start actively dating again, how would you go about looking for such a woman? Not it's an easy answer, but I'm just trying to understand how to formulate it. Just be as honest as I can with myself. You just don't excuse anymore. How she looks and so forth is secondary, or very primary in a very quick way. Yeah, you're good looking. My biology wants you. Done. Out of the way. Everything else is about me relating to you as a human being, your values and everything. Because at this point in my life, I am happy with my life. I value what I have, my family, friends, my house, my lifestyle. I'm very weary about letting anything in that's bad. Not in a afraid kind of defensive way, but in a way that there's just no point. Life is short, and I've made enough mistakes without going forward, like wasting another couple of years with the wrong person. So just wanting to make good, honest decisions and be a good person with my decisions. And with that mindset, if I ever do date the person in front of me, and it feels good too. I was on a very, very quick date just before the lockdown. And I suspected she probably wasn't for me, but you can never tell unless it's face to face, because via communication, she seemed okay. She looked okay. She wrote well. She spoke well. But when I met her, my suspicions were confirmed, and like, no, not for me. And I just, you tend to trust your judgment and your instinct, because your instinct, if this stuff makes any sense, the things we talk about, your own moral philosophy, then it starts to come at the forefront, and you can't hide from it. Because once you do once you do start going on old patterns that from before that led you down a bad path, and are probably based on childhood trauma and unconscious destructive patterns that always didn't lead anywhere good, you're kind of like, no, it starts to, those old patterns start to resemble touching a sticky doorknob. It's just kind of like, no, not going to do that again. Life's too short. Nice person, not for me. You get this sense of nice person, not for me, more and more, and you just need to trust that. Edson, human. So if you're not monk, what type of interaction do you have with women? Pump and dump? No. I'm not kind of actively out there, in dating mode. But the degree to which I'm open to dating, or I have moments where I'll go on a date or meet a woman, it's take it or leave it, because I value and enjoy my life. Either a woman's got to add to my life or she's not, and vice versa too. But I'm not monk. No, I interact with women these days like I would anyone else, any guy. There's the sexual biological factor, but they're either a good person, or they're a potential good friend, or I don't care. I don't need them in my life. They're going to take my life backwards. I can't waste any more time with the wrong woman. Simple as that. Ospexel, the only person you need in your life is yourself. Not necessarily, but as the central calibrating factor, yes. The dead man switch. Human, I self-defeat myself and label myself a failure and take solace empowerment in it to the point I see myself as a mistake in excess lives and I should never had the chance. Not quite sure what you mean. I hope I'm trying to interpret the grammar. Some people work best, or they think they work best, by kicking themselves into action. Like, oh, you're an idiot, get off your ass. Like, like a drill sergeant kicking you into action. But that's not always a good thing, because you can start hating yourself. You can start thinking of yourself as very little. In psychoanalysis, analytic terms, you've got a really awful superego. And the superego can be seen as the authoritative bad parent telling you, you're nothing, do your homework, clean your room, you're a loser. The healthier way to have a superego is to have someone that's looking out for you, like a older protective brother or a father or a parent that looks out for you and treats you with respect and wants nothing but the best for you, but is protecting you. Most people's superego, in that sense, that they kick themselves, if I'm interpreting your message correctly, I don't think it's healthy. Some people think it's healthy because that's the only way that they can get off their ass, is to be shamed into getting off their ass and doing something. It's not good as a mental state. It is if you know it's comedic. I have sometimes done it where I've said to myself, human, get off your ass and then go for a run. But I'm not really treating myself bad. It's like two friends getting together and kind of razzing each other. A bit of fun hazing with a smile on your face. It's not really malevolent, if you know what I mean. But really having an awful best friend up here dictating and controlling you is not a good thing. Eos Logos. I feel that's what makes being in relationships so tough, though. The more you share with the person you're intimate with, the more you feel you lose if and when the relationship ends. Sure, but what would you rather do? Be closed and sleepwalk through a relationship and waste decades of your life? I still contend I'm still completely open when I have been in relationships, and I will continue to be, because at least they're going to reject me, or it's going to end because I'm exactly who I am. I'm not pretending. I'm not Romeo. I'm not gaming her. I'm being me. If she loves me, she loves the real me. If she rejects me, she's rejecting the real me. It's not my problem. I can't be anyone other than who I am. There's no real downside to you. Remember that, guys. Open up. I mean, don't be reckless. Don't give her your credit card number and get married and, have kids together and immediately, especially until you've had a long enough vetting process that you're comfortable with. And I mean rationally in today's world and given your own experience and who you are. But be you. Don't hide yourself, because if you're loved, it'll be for you. If you're rejected, it'll be for you. Alpha Dog, thank you for the super chat. There's always going to be heartache and there's going to be negative stuff, guys. But if that's going to happen anyway, you can't hide from it. It's going to happen. Like I mentioned previously, earlier this year, my father passed away. I knew it was going to happen. There's no way to prepare for it, but be honest as much as you can. Yep, it's going to happen. So I'm going to value the time I have with my father before he passes away. When you're with a woman, what do you want out of a relationship? You want all this good stuff that you're not seeing other guys have, that you never get. So what are you going to do? Pretend to be someone else to get a simulacra of something that you feel like you're acting in anyway? But on the surface, yeah, you go to cafes, you do this, you do that. You've got this fake plastered smile on your face. But the only time you can be you is when you click on the computer screen or go into your shed or you work on your car project. Be you. It's a kind of glib, trite answer, but if you're rejected, at least you're being rejected for who you are, man. And if you're being loved, you're being loved for who you are. If you have a friend, your friends love you for who you are. Furious Malik, this discussion is interesting. I never had a convo about this before. Saw this in my recommended. Oh, really? It's always interesting who gets recommended my videos. I can never tell. Welcome aboard anyway. Edison says, you got to take care of your mental health. Nagging can knock years out of your life. I agree. Mental health has become a cliche term, but basically it's about your own ethics and moral philosophy as a guy. That's been lost because men aren't mentoring and teaching and talking to each other. I think the incidence of mental health would diminish in guys if more guys would talk to each other, not in a feminine way, but it's also as a result of being raised by women, and women don't know how to raise men. Point blank. They are at raising men. Dirk Kirby, I'm 50 and see older guys here. I'm at a loss for how to find people, especially with social distancing. My old friends are either dead, incarcerated, or swallowed up in a marriage and Facebook. I'm on the same page, man. It's a reason I started my YouTube channel. I couldn't find the connections with sort of guys to have deep conversations with, and so I created them. Create your world. Welcome aboard. You guys keep talking. Like I encourage this kind of growth. On my channel, middle-aged guys with experience to sort of share these stories and talk, mentor the young guys who find my channel, and kind of have these kind of conversations that aren't had in the world anymore, because there aren't families, there aren't grandfathers, there aren't husbands, there aren't, all of that has diminished. And so these kind of conversations and connections between men have diminished too. So welcome aboard, Dirk, and I encourage you guys to keep sharing information amongst each other. I appreciate it. Quizats says 49 divorced, red-pilled, however, from time to time hoping to see the Nawalt. It is incredible how much your motivation comes from the female, the constant nagging of the universe through the female. Yeah, it's a good metaphor to see it as, the universe nagging you through the female, or prodding you. You're feeling flat. Here's a sexy woman walks by. All of a sudden you feel alive again. Hey Joe says, Kenny Rogers once said this about gambling. I think it works for modern dating. You get to know when to hold them, when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. Yeah. Did he sing that with Dolly Parton? That was Islands in the Stream, wasn't it? He sung that on his own, yeah. It was a popular song of his. I was never a fan, but it was a popular song, I remember, when I was a kid. Thanks for some of the new faces that have come on board and some of the compliments about my video. I appreciate it, guys. Um, whoa, that was a big jump. Okay. The dead man switch. Human following up on the last depression question, catch 22. No relationship without being whole. Guys, your grammar. Don't feel whole coming home to no one. Okay. The isolation is crippling. Hobbies isn't fixing it all. Yeah. Look, I can sympathize. I have moments, some days where I feel kind of flat. A lot of guys feel it more than I do. Some have full-blown depression and anxiety, especially if you've come through recent breakups, divorces, and so forth. It can be tough. All I can suggest is find constructive routines, as small as it is. You know, you get up, you write in your journal, or you get up, you do the gardening, you go for a walk, you walk your dog, get a dog, you go to the supermarket. Have routines that can fill your day up. The worst you can do when you're in that state is to just be left alone with your thoughts, because they can drive you mad. And most importantly, seek out people, whether virtually like this, especially in lockdown, which is about the only thing you can do. And also, don't seek out toxic material or friends that are just going to make you angrier or more depressed, or make you feel like, even though, like, you can watch YouTube videos or talk to men that are bitching about the world or women, but if afterwards all it does is make you feel worse or even more hopeless, don't do that. But routines during lockdown are your best friends, because at least then you feel at the end of the day you've accomplished a few small things. Even if it's kind of, I know for me, sometimes just the feeling of accomplishment was, okay, at lunch, I'm going to cook this meal, and I've got these ingredients, and I'm going to watch this movie on my TV while I'm eating. There's one thing I've crossed off my list. And most people think, well, that's not a goal. That's not an achievement. But for me, it is. And so it's easy for other guys to kick themselves because they haven't achieved anything monumental. Small little routines and goals, guys. Yeah, exercise. Eric B, getting weights and rowing machine was a great move. Working out from home, much better than going to the gym. Yep, I try and work out every day, especially while I'm preparing a meal or in between things. You know, have either free weights. I've got a set of, you know, those, you can buy them online. They're adjustable dumbbells. I think they cost like $100 and something bucks. And basically, like, you can quickly adjust them. So I've got a set of dumbbells, adjustable ones, and I've got what are those, Chuck Norris Total Gym kind of cable machines. And between those two, I've got them in my lounge room, and I can always jump on and do 10 to 15 minutes. So again, there's another achievement you can have during the day. I worked out, I made lunch, I went for a walk. Even if you don't do anything kind of out of the ordinary, like I make videos, I write, and I do those extra things. But if I do none of those and I do the basics, like I've taken care of my health and myself in my day-to-day little existence, like by exercising, eating, doing healthy things like that, they're things you can cross off. Yeah, I think some guys might think, well, they're nothing you can cross off on the list. You know, my things on the list have to be things that other people could be proud, could pat me on the back for, that I would proudly sort of tell people, oh, guess what I did? I fixed my roof. I made money. I started a business. A lot of that external validation, and also that conveniently women would admire too. I don't necessarily think that calibrating your goals and checklist to that is healthy, especially during lockdown, when all you have is yourself. Dean, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. His question is, how to handle friends and family that see politics and the world completely different than you. I find it hard to just let stuff go when around them. I have that, but if I zone out if they're talking about something I'm not interested in, and but I also add my point of view, and sometimes that's not welcome as well, especially when it's to do with these topics about social dynamics, people, men and women, relationships, how the world is the way it is, and my opinions with it. But all I can say, if they're on your back, try and avoid them as much as possible. If you can avoid them easily, avoid them and seek out people that are more simpatico with you. But don't also look for an echo chamber that limits your perspective and the world as well. But if they're doing your head in, I agree. It's harder if you're living under the same roof as them. I can appreciate that. But how to handle them, know how to respond. As a person mentioned previously about Kenny Rogers, know when to walk away. Dead Man Switch, not a question, but Dead Man Switch, you're aging awesomely, brother. You shouldn't even be in the boat. Wish you so much good wishes. Thank you. Look, I've never smoked. I don't drink. My parents gave myself, my brother, and my sister fairly good genetics as well. But I'm very much into kind of good mental and physical health, so that kind of helps too. A lot of it's out of my control, though. But thank you. Willem, I'm 48 and recently divorced, and my ex already has a new guy lined up. My son is 10. How do I handle a new man in his life? Ah, man, that's hard. See, look, what can I say? Like, whatever I say philosophically, really in that situation, as a third person, it feels like I'm being tried. All I can do is have sympathy for you, man, and try and forge ahead with your own life and be connected with him, but try and spend as little time focused on her, because as you mentioned, she doesn't care one damn about you. She's already found another man, and she's got a 10-year-old son. Think about how little she thinks about you in this context. Return the favor. I know you care about yourself. Don't have higher morals and values than the people you're dealing with. Care about as much about her as she does about you, and she's telling you how little she cares about you. Eric B., are you aware of any research regarding female group preference to show that the bias towards other women? Not off the top of my head, but I know that women have much more of an in-group preference than men do. Much more. They treat each other like shit, but make your questions stand out, guys. I'm just skimming through them. We're nearly up to an hour and a half. Let's hit the home stretch. Nelafy, what's your advice for women to become better partners? Walk your talk. Be more responsible. Women talk a big game, and they do the exact opposite. It's all talk to kind of sell, and then they're very passive. Women need to be less passive. They've come too far in independence and freedom and so forth, which again, I get it from a male point of view. I understand the attraction to being independent and being an autonomous kind of person, taking hold of yourself as a mature, a responsible individual. But women need to act more responsibly. Basically, they've done everything in their power not to be beholden to men and to be independent. Now they have to act as such. They can't They're trying to live in two places at once, and women need to start living in one place. This is the world they've given. They are, feminism is history. It's become part of their sort of their Bible, how they think, what they think they're owed, their lack of cooperation with men, their view of themselves, how independent they are, what they say as opposed to what they actually, how they live. So women need to be more honest with themselves these days. Men are trying to find their way, like we're trying to be honest. Women are already being left behind, not just by men, but by society, especially during these times, because you can't pretend anymore. This is the world you've got now. You've been shouting, women this, I am woman, hear me roar, and all this stuff. Okay, now it's no longer entertainment. Now when it's survival stake, you've got your religion, I've got mine. You've got your female empowerment religion, live with it. See how well it works. So I'd say that women need to be, put it this way, women need to be more ethical. By ethics, I mean their practical philosophy. Not just what they say, but they need to implement it in their life. They can't just say, I want a nice guy. They need to pick a nice guy. They can't just say, I'm independent. They need to be independent. They need to cultivate what they say they want and what they get together with other girls, what they talk about. If you're getting together with other women and you're talking toxically and you're bitching about the world and men, that's the world you get. If you want to talk better and improve your life, try and implement that stuff too. I mean, I don't know what to tell women. Basically, be more like men, because that's the world you've created. You want it to be like men. Now you have to actually act more like men. But then the other part of it is, what are heterosexual men going to find attractive about men, about women? It was a Freudian slip, about women that posture like men. The trick with women is how are they going to retain any attractive femininity to men from the posture of independence, where we kind of actually really see that you don't need us. So really the only reason we'd need each other now is by our personalities and how we treat each other and our values. So women need to grow up, basically. I'm not being condescending. They need to grow up in really implementing what they talk about for themselves and how they relate to men. Not just what they want from men, but to offer that as well, to be fair. Because the great thing about these philosophical discussions is philosophy is consistent. What I believe in for me needs to reflect the other person too. If I think this is good for this part of society, it needs to translate over here as well. It can't just selfishly be for me. Women need to be fair. Alpha Dog, thank you for the super chat, man. I appreciate it again. He says, agreed. I used to kick my own ass to get stuff done. I finally learned to let go and just do what I can. I don't really like Eckhart Tolle, but some of his stuff works. Yeah, Eckhart Tolle is a tricky one. I can understand why women really love him. He can make you feel something primary without being specific. Whereas for a man, we need specifics because we need to act in the world and make our lives better. But something intangible like that, conceptual, Eckhart Tolle can actually sometimes be really good for that. I think just Eckhart Tolle's gotten popularized by a lot of people on who are on medication, to be generous. The people who like spiritual memes, because Eckhart Tolle is a very smart guy, and he's come a long way in his own introspection. And you can really feel it with what he says. but he doesn't really instruct. And I think a lot of people can see what they want to see through his material, especially if they're lazy, because it doesn't really tell you what to do. Edson, human, what do you get out of your interactions with women? Watch my last video. I told you. It's pretty much all there. Basic companionship and sex. Is it well and good to, Jack says, is it well and good to advise being assertive and not passive, but in a corporate environment? I found you have to play it safe. Yeah, in corporate is depending on the environment you live in, you work in corporate, you do need to wear a mask to a small or large extent, but it depends on your environment, your boss, and so forth, and the culture. In office politics, most women can outmaneuver most men. Yeah. Women, I think, again, as I mentioned, I think in terms of men appreciating honesty and reality more because we don't exist if we don't acknowledge it more. Women can sort of live in that passive game playing, backstabbing, gossip world. They get off on it. It's one of their favorite drugs. Eugene, do I have pets? No, but I'm looking to get a dog in the future. Wolfgang, do you think healthcare, mental health care included, is a personal responsibility? Yes. So there's some things biologically that a person really can't help or is going to be harder than the next person, which I'm sympathetic to, but in general, yes. Ali Bari, what kind of suppression? Are you talking about audio suppression? I'm running a noise gate, a slight noise gate through Streamlabs OBS. A few settings, audio settings. I don't know without looking, but there's about 3 or 4 that I'm running through this at the moment. Anasa, support human, hit the like button. Yes. Okay, let's skim down. Daniel, been through 2 divorces and barely survived. 2 wars. I'm afraid the biological pull will suck me in again at some point. Really? After 2 divorces, Daniel? Any thoughts on how to avoid? What can I tell you? You've been in 2, you've been deployed twice, and you want to go back. You've got a taste for it, I suppose. I don't know. I can't do it once, man. You know you're going to do it a 3rd time. I don't know what to say, other than exercise your mental muscles, exercise your values and morals, like exercise really, really hard boundaries. Don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be passive. And be that way right from the get-go. So you've got the best chance of staying married. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Alpha Dog, thanks for the super chat. He says, and know when to run. Yep. Going your own way is sometimes running your own way. Real name's not given. I believe smiling is underrated for a positive mood. Yes. Yes. I think some people like these super chats because I smile a bit more, because I'm being a bit more lighthearted than my usual videos. But my usual videos, I'm concentrating on a very specific point. And I've got bullet points, and I want to convey it because I think it's important. And so I'm not trying to laugh through something that's really important, even though this, I think, because it's more casual, it allows me to. Someone asked me about my personality, how much of it is me online. This is probably the most me. Elusive Mike, thank you for the super chat. Love your content, mate. It helps during the hell I'm enduring. I'm glad it helps, mate. And I hope things get better for you. Plain sailor. My son was abducted in the night, taken by another country 6 years ago. We talk twice a day on video message. He's fine. Great sense of humor. Just don't push your fears onto them. Is this talking? Okay, if I get you. Don't push your fears onto your kids. Remember, if they're questions, guys, make them stand out. I'm just skimming through them to see if there's any more questions. And we'll wrap it up pretty soon. So if you've got any questions, throw them at me, and because I'm going to end it fairly soon. Mark, we got rid of traditional roles of women and women, but women and men are still innately attracted to traditional characteristics of feminine and masculine in each other because they were cooperative. We held a lot of our impulses at bay for the greater good of, biology and raising a family and some sort of stability so we could go forward. We could advance society. Man's impulses were curbed. Women's were curbed to some degree. Now it's kind of all... Yeah, hit the like button, guys. 268 viewers at the moment. Put some emojis before or after the questions, or super chat your questions, or however way you want to make them stand out, guys, because I'm just flying down the list, and if I don't see anything standing out as a question, there are just too many comments, so I don't want to miss anything. Hey Spetsnaz, how are you, man? Thanks for dropping in. Hope life's good. Hope the weather is exactly to your liking. I don't know what kind of weather you see. I didn't want to say I hope it's sunny. You might not like the sun. You might be a dark guy who likes the rain and thunder. In which case, I hope it's thundering and raining and miserable. Plain Sailor says you boys need to get out of the city. Yeah. I was talking about that last night with my family. My parents have a farm about 2 hours out of Melbourne, and I could see myself living there. If I could work from home, all I'd need is an internet connection. I'd be happy driving into town for groceries once or twice a week, and that'd be it. Spira Lali asked me, where do you find and meet new women? And then the next comment from Luke was, new women? I think there was a comment saying like women today are basically like a used car lot where none of the odometers work. Where none of them have odometers, actually. But they're telling you they're all new cars. Edson asks, human, think female companionship isn't really all that great. Sex is overrated in my opinion, but if you must, you could go to a pro. What is your view on prostitution? I went once when I was younger because I had a couple of friends who would always end the night by going to a brothel. Most of the time I just sort of stayed and played pool waiting for them. One time I indulged just to see what it was like. It was worse than what I imagined, only because I kind of knew the game. Like she's laughing at everything I'm saying, even if it's not funny. And I'm thinking that wasn't a joke. You're just being overly nice. It was a fakeness that was really turned up. And she was a sweet person. I didn't enjoy it at all because it was artificial. For good or ill, I need some level of authenticity in my life in relating to people, whether it's platonic or, having a lover. Just the actual action of going to a prostitute. Maybe I'll mellow out as I get older. I don't know. Spetsnaz. I'm not distinguished, man. Take that back. Yeah, why do people say you and I look the same? I don't know. Has anyone seen Spetsnaz? I don't think he's shown his face anyway. How would people know? What do you recommend if you are a highly sensitive guy with social anxiety? I am unemployed since 5 years and don't know what I can work. Find people you're comfortable talking to, but not hateful people, not bitter people. And that's a good step forward. Again, I don't know what advice I can give because I don't like giving advice. A better word is what direction I can give that's sensible. Vention, how are you, man? Hope you're doing well. He says, funny, porn always solved the problem for me. I'd be feeling amorous, so I download something from Usenet and wham bam, done. Then I'm like, okay, done here. Then go to the more important things. Yeah, I've done that too. It's happened once or twice where for some reason from, a part of the day, I just can't get it out of my mind. But there's this weird thing where you don't want to get rid of the poison. You want to keep that feeling going because it's euphoric. But I realize that and I go, nah, like I need to do something today. And so you just get it out. But also kind of depletes something out of you as well. So I've noticed that sometimes that porn and masturbation, it can, from the kind of the mental like precision and my focus in the day, it gets rid of the desire porn, but it also takes something away from the quality, from the time now I have afterwards. So the addiction's not there. I think it's sort of, maybe it's related to, I've heard some people who are on certain types of antidepressants, it curbs the anxiety or it solves some of their problems, but the side effects is it affects other parts of their lives too. Maybe it's something similar, I don't know. Eos Logos, do you reckon your body is literally hardwired to feel miserable without women in order to make you try to propagate genes? I don't know about making you feel miserable, but that kind of biological fear, maybe. Don't forget, guys, we're just trying to find words for this stuff here. I don't know. Yeah, I think there might be something to that. Here we go. Human by Vaporware. Human, do you think love can still exist after a person's hurt and a fragmented past? Yes, I do. Wet Palette Warrior, what part of regional Victoria are you from? No names. I'm in the West. Dead Man Switch, what's your thought on artificial wounds? It seems men see that as a prosperity, but isn't that glorifying the thought children growing up in a single parent home? Not good. Exactly. I think the same way. On aggregate, if you're going to have a single parent, I think a single male is better than a female because for the fact that men can think about others and society, not always place themselves first. men aren't as solipsistic in the way they relate to others. And in a lot of cases, men put themselves last or don't even consider themselves at all. So in terms of giving, if you're going to have a single parent, I think men are much better. Simply because especially if you're going to have a male, women cannot teach men much at all, especially in today's environment. Whereas a man will try to at least understand his daughter. But yeah, I agree. I'm not a big fan of artificial wombs. I think children are raised healthiest in a two-parent household. Spetsnaz says sound. What does that mean? You can't hear me? Oh, Spetsnaz has met Mr. Vention. Feral male. I had the opposite experience in a strip club. Peppermint Rhino. One of the girls really knew how to play the game, made me realize just how manipulative women can be when they want. I've always, I've liked the reality of life, the real stuff. The fakeness really kind of in everything, whether it's relationships. I think that's the kind of the betrayal with me that gets me annoyed, like the fakeness, the acting. You said this, but you acted in another way. Were you lying, or you're just stupid? Whether it's platonic or romantic. The reality of life is so much richer that when people play games, and I understand it's from a defensive posture and they're shy and afraid and they don't want to lose someone and blah, blah, blah. But like I said, like the older I get, I'd rather lose something being honest than retain something being fake. And, you know, I expect that from, like, if I were to have a girlfriend, I'd want her not to love the real me rather than not to love a fake version of me or me her. Caramel, any tips on how to develop masculinity after being raised by a single mother? Yeah, be around men more. I think you've had a gut full of women. Bob says, is there a woman that could bring you into marriage? Do you know anyone thriving in marriage today? Thriving. I've got a couple of older friends from high school that are in happy marriages. So, yeah. But they got married when they were younger, in their 20s. I think the older you get, the tougher it is. If not, it gets impossible almost. That's a bit bright. Web Palette Warrior. I had a single father raise my brother and I. He never turned us against our mother, but every single mother woman I have met has demonized their previous partner. Yeah, well, when I've talked to single mums and I've gone on a few dates, whenever you ask them about their ex, because I'm interested, I want to know what happened, how they acted, and so forth. Just to kind of reveal their character and how they think and their values. A lot of the times, when they talk about their ex, it's with real kind of animosity and hatred. And I'm thankful that I can actually see that. It tells a lot about their character. But when they describe their partner, they never did anything wrong. In one case, the guy cheated on her. I can understand fully well why she left and why she had an issue. But in the other cases, it was like, well, he just annoyed her. You know, she didn't love him anymore. He was working too much. But nothing you could point to that you could say, well, I still don't understand why you're so angry at him. It sounds like you didn't like the car you bought and now you're blaming the car. Vaporware. Men are better at raising children. Women are only good at aging children. That's a great quote. Men are better at raising children. Women are only good at aging children. Write that down. If there was a way I could pin this, I would. Ah, pin message. There we go. Vention says, want fewer women around? Work a physical job, yeah. The dirtier it is, the fewer women there will be. Heavy diesel truck mechanic was awesome. If not mechanic, be a parts guy. Yeah, I've actively I changed jobs a few years ago. I worked in corporate, and I had my limit of it. I don't think people like me, like some of you guys, can tolerate that very much, especially when you get older. And what you believe in has to really coincide with the way you live. And too much separation really something has to give. You have to make a decision when you get older. It becomes a clear focus. And now for the last, say, 4 or 5 years, I've been working in a place, as Vention mentioned. It's not a glamorous job. I work in an industrial area. I'm a graphic designer, but basically it's a warehouse environment where it's all men, no HR. I think there's one woman who works in packing back in the storeroom, but she's sort of young and fairly agreeable and nice. But 99.9% of the employees are men. There's a gym. Guys swear all the time. There's no political correctness. It's just very, very friendly. Just the masculine environment. I can't tell you what a refreshing change it's been in terms of a working environment. Seriously, working with women like I did in an office environment, I'll never be doing that again. It's funny how, like, most women want to get into corporate environments, which is, funnily enough, an environment that closely resembles their home. They don't want to be housewives, but they want the environments that closely resemble a home. Anyway, guys, we've been going for just under 2 hours. I don't want to go any further. It was a really good one. Thanks for coming on. We had mid 200s coming into the chat, which was awesome. Some really, really good questions. Let's do it again soon, and I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye.